All right. Are we moving on? We got kind of a important topic to talk about. This might go a little haywire, but we need to talk about it, I guess. So the NFL today came out with their new COVID plans as far as the vaccine. And it kind of blew Twitter up. Players, fans I've seen people who cover the sport are a little iffy on one side or the other. So let's just kind of go over the hot parts of this. So if there are incidences like we saw last year where there are super spreaders in teams, takes a whole team out, and it's because of unvaccinated personnel, whether that's players, team staff, coaches, whatever. If they are not able to reschedule that game in a timely fashion, so probably within like that week, that's a forfeit. Whatever team it happened to, they forfeit. And I think the biggest part aside from that is players on both sides, if that happens, don't receive any paycheck that week. So part of me feels like this is why, because we don't know who is vaccinated or who isn't unless they come out and said it, like Cole Beasley saying that he's not going to get vaccinated. He doesn't believe in it and he's not sure about it, whatever. But things from that angle, I think that's part of the reason why these guys are so angry about this. You saw Matt Judon say the NFLPA like effing sucks or whatever he said. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that they feel like they're pressured now to get vaccinated if they aren't, or if they weren't planning to be, or they're pissed off that they could potentially not get paid a big chunk of change because of somebody else. I don't know. So let's just talk about this. We'll try to keep it as middle ground as possible just to not ruffle anybody's feathers, because I know this is kind of a sensitive topic and we don't want to get too political, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. I just don't feel like arguing with people today. So you guys
you know what my major was in college, right? Political science. Keystone Light and political science were my two majors.
Keystone Light.
Keystone Ice was bomb, by the way. Yeah. All right. Just to give one perspective on this, because there seems to be a million of them. There's two things going on here simultaneously with this vaccine conversation. One, there's a group of people who believe that the vaccine's totally fine. It is based on a lot of years of research and science and whatnot. And based on the numbers, it seems like it's been working, obviously. I mean, the cases have been going down in a ton of states where people are highly vaccinated. You're basically creating a situation where you're injecting a dead virus mRNA that is actually causing your body to have an immune response similar to what you'd have if you got COVID yourself. Now, there's another side that believes that there's something else going on, that it's corporate run, that there's some other elements of it that could be part of a bigger agenda that we don't know about. The issue is, can you blame either side? That's my whole thing. I don't blame people. My parents have gotten it. I don't blame them. I know I have friends who won't get it. I don't blame them. I don't argue with them. So with the NFL, I just don't like that they're kind of taking one side. How the hell does Roger Goodell know if there's something up or there's something forced with this vaccine? And on the other side, you could also say, why do the players not just trust the system? I don't know. I just feel like you got to leave it up for choice. This isn't up for choice at this point, which is why I just think it's not being done in a kosher setting. And the NFLPA for representing players is completely dropping the ball here. You cannot have a situation where you're forcing players to either get vaccinated or not, and if they don't, then they end up getting shunned, or you can potentially hurt your team. I mean, isn't that not right? Have we ever heard of something like this before? I don't know. I feel like there's just issues with this all around. The NFLPA doesn't have strong leaders, and it's because the NFLPA, if we want to get serious about it, the NFLPA is run by woke movements that are very pro-vaccine. So you're not going to have them defending players that are anti this vaccine. That's why this is not being done properly by the NFLPA. Not to get too much into politics, but if we're going to discuss what the NFLPA's agenda is, that's what their agenda is. They're very woke run. And when you're woke run, you're obviously not going to represent anti-vaccine people, players. So that's why they haven't done anything. They've let all this stuff kind of happen, and they haven't had a say.
Yeah, the NFL, it's clear as day what the NFL wants to do here. They want to force the players without legally forcing them to get vaccinated because they don't want to deal with the protocols and policies and all that shit again. They don't want to have to run through all of that. And I know I think if you guys don't hear me, I have a mic issue here. If it sounds pretty crappy, I'm sorry. I could plug in and plug out, but they don't want to have to go through what they went through last year, the cramming to fit a game on a Tuesday. Am I going to have to postpone a game on Wednesday? So if they can get these players over that 85% threshold, like they did in the MLB, they can say, wash our hands with it and say, hey, we got the high majority of our teams vaccinated. The players are vaccinated. It's out of our hands. We're going forward. Our league officials, our referees, our coaches, assistants, we're all vaccinated. The players, they have the opportunity to do it. If they don't, then they're at risk. So they want to wash their hands of this and say, it's on you now. And they're not going to support anybody who doesn't want to follow that. They don't want DeAndre Hopkins out there. And I was pissed off that he deleted that tweet because it was a really good tweet. And, regardless of him being, a little over the top and emotional with the threat of retiring, which obviously won't happen, I don't mind when people come out and say, hey, I thought this was a choice that I could make about my own health. Why am I being forced? And you read some of the comments from these people on Twitter calling him an idiot and basically just ripping him to shreds about a choice he's making for his own health and body. He's a world-class athlete. I think he knows a little bit more than you do about what's good or not for his physical health. So for all these people who want to say, oh, everybody has their right to choose unless it's against what they believe in, and then, they shun you. So it really just kind of goes down and boils down to what I've said and what we've all said, as a group when we've talked about, different conversations like this is, why don't you just let people decide what they want and leave them alone? Like, why do we all have to be like all high and mighty, like a judge here and just like look down or talk down on people who disagree with what you say? Like, the league is trying to do something, and players, they don't have to listen. I think they went a little over the top, the NFL, with the forfeiting, because that's a huge policy. Like, you're talking about forfeiting an NFL game. That's never happened, at least in any of our lives. I don't know if, before anything in the 80s and 70s, if anything has happened like that because of whatever reason. But when you threaten a forfeit, I mean, that's like as high as you can go in the NFL, like their rule books and their policies. That's pretty crazy. When you threaten that just because of a vaccination, in which people have the right to be questionable about a vaccine that was created. I know they've been working on similar ones for years, so I'm no scientist here, and I'll never try to be. But it's a vaccine that's new to people within the past 6 months, 7 months now. So people have the right to question whether or not it's good for them and if they want to take it or not. So I just don't like this whole like high and mighty looking down on people and shunning them and ripping them and, questioning their character as if like Hopkins doesn't care about the players on his team because he doesn't feel like he has to get or wants to get vaccinated. That's bullshit. So for what the NFL is doing, I think it's a little bit overboard in my opinion. I know what they're doing. And
let Bree jump in real quick because me and you'll go on.
I'm going to try and fix this mic.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that people are commenting like if you really care about your team, you'll go and get the vaccine. What kind of like shallow mindset is that? Isn't that shallow to you? I know someone that got the vaccine.
I'm vaccinated, so I'm pro-vaccine.
No, that's fine.
So I don't know. I think the biggest misconception with all of this, with the people that are, I don't even want to necessarily call them anti-vax. I just want to call them, I guess, more skeptical about it. I feel like that's the nicer way to put it without kind of throwing terms around that might piss people off and whatever. The biggest misconception, I think, is that these people think that just because you get the vaccine means you can never get COVID again. Like Jalen Ramsey tweeted that a couple of his family members got the vaccine, they're fully vaccinated, and now they're positive for COVID. I know people who are fully vaccinated who have tested positive for COVID, but they are asymptomatic. Aaron Judge, COVID vaccinated, has COVID. I mean, he's on the 10-day COVID list or whatever the hell the MLB is calling it now. So what these specifically NFL is, what these guys need to realize is getting the vaccine is going to help their team kind of avoid the mess and mayhem we saw last year when it comes to rescheduling games and dealing with like third string, fourth string practice squad guys having to come out and putting on a product for the league that's pretty crappy. And you have to think of it from the league's perspective too, that this is their business. They're kind of allowed to make these sort of rules because they're a private company. I know there's unions involved and whatever, but that's what the whole collective bargaining has to do with it. And they have a lot of money at stake. You know how much money they lost last year because they had to switch games around and adjust TV scheduling and sponsorships and things like that. Like it was a mess, not only for the play on the field, but the behind the scenes stuff. So this is not only, in my opinion, the NFL's way of trying to make it so that they can get back to normal as much as possible when it comes to the football aspect of it, but try to make sure their business stays in. And I'm not saying the NFL is going to go bankrupt if they have a season like they did last year, because God knows that's not going to happen. But they took a pretty big hit financially because of all the rescheduling and the disaster with COVID last year. So I don't want to call the people that aren't getting the vaccine selfish, because I completely agree. It's your own personal choice to do whatever you want with your body. That I can go on a whole nother tangent on, because if we're talking about vaccines, why can't we talk about women's bodies like that? But whatever, it's not the place or the time. But I just think people should get it. I think it would just make everybody's quality of life a lot easier. And if you want to go back to normal, but you're also sitting here saying, oh, well, I'm not going to get the vaccine. I don't trust it. I don't know what's in it. Like, I'm all for not trusting the government. Like, whatever, they're all pieces of shit in their own way. But like, I don't think they're going to put a chip in you. I don't feel like they have your social security number. We have facial recognition software. They're watching you no matter where you go. You have a little man in your phone doing targeted ads. If you're worried about a vaccine to help protect you physically and the people around you physically because of that, we're way past that, pal. We got other stuff to talk about when it comes to spies and phone bugging and things like that. So just get the shot, please, is all I'm asking. That's all.